Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this June's Tech Talk. This month, we're going to be talking about home and office connectivity. In today's world, much of our lives are connected to technology, even our home appliances. Today, we are joined by Eder Casella technology partner and CIO, Eder Vicencio. Eric has over 17 years of experience in the IT world and is the perfect person to walk us through the Internet of Things. This webinar will be 30 minutes. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the chat and we will be sure to answer them at the end of the presentation. With that, I will turn you over to Eric.
Thank you. And thank you for covering while Rachel's out. Everybody gets to take vacations apparently. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to talk about home and office connectivity. And why this is important and things you should know. Okay, so what kind of connectivity are we talking about? Internet connectivity, right? So we all probably remember dial-up. There's some different options as well through ISDN, Integrated Service Digital Network. We'll get through that. Cable internet, which is probably what the majority of you all are using. Fiber internet, cellular internet, we're going to talk about that quite a bit. Satellite, which is kind of a newer technology. It's actually been around for a bit, so we'll touch on that. And then point-to-point internet. So first thing that we really need to talk about when it comes to internet is speeds versus latency. Your speeds are really just how fast you're downloading and uploading things from the internet. You know, if you're watching a movie, streaming a movie, you're going to want to have a really good download speed, but your upload speed's maybe not that big of a deal. Upload speeds, like if you're pushing pictures to the internet, let's say you have a backup of your phone or something and you're on your home Wi-Fi, your upload speeds are what are going to be affected there. Latency can be considered like a lag. I usually tell people it's like two people talking across the canyon. One person yells and the other person has to wait to hear it. And that delay of communication can wreak havoc on some business applications. If you have fast speeds, but like a really high latency, a lot of your applications will appear slow, even though you have solid download and upload speeds. This could be particularly bad with your like hosted phone systems or Zoom or Skype. That's where you would actually say something and it's going to take forever for the voice to actually come across to the end users. Okay, so I'll touch base on fast speeds, slow speeds, high latency, low latency. So I wanted to make sure to define those right away for you all, so that way you could kind of get a good idea of what's going on. Okay, dial-up internet. I'm going to tell you I was a 90s kid. Dial-up internet was the only thing that we had available. I don't know how we survived. Now, dial-up internet is still a thing, believe it or not. And the pros for it, if there are any, to be 100% honest, these are available almost anywhere still. Your cons, it's extremely slow. If you have more than a single user or a single application trying to use it, it's going to be completely unusable. You're basically going to end up burying the internet connection. And most of your business apps aren't going to run. There may still be a use for it, and we'll get to that in a little bit. ISDN, a lot of people don't know what these are. This is your DSL, T1s, T3s, depending on what kind of a company you're running. You may have a T1. The pros to using an ISDN is it's available almost anywhere. Okay, fairly reliable. You hardly ever hear about these going down. They run very similarly to dial-up, but they're maybe dial-up on steroids kind of thing. They can handle more than one user. So in a pinch, you could still use these. The cons, they are still slower than your common cable internet. They're not cost effective. These are going through the roof. In the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a huge increase in the cost of these lines, and some of your business apps just won't run because you are going to run into lower download speeds or upload speeds. So A lot of the times when you try to use something like DSL, you're going to end up not being able to use it because, these modern apps are expecting a higher speed. The next one I want to talk about, because it's coming into being more and more popular for, the residential side or in the business side as a backup. I haven't seen anybody, I haven't run into any companies yet that are using cellular internet as their primary internet, okay? Some of these speeds are 4 to 5G speeds. What do I mean by that? Most of your phones, if you haven't bought them in the last 1 to 2 years, you're probably still running on 4G, and you're going to get at least 100 gig or 100 gig. I'm sorry, 100 meg. Your speeds are going to be fairly good. So it runs on the cell phone tower. So these are really awesome if you're a commuter or a mobile worker, because you can actually work anywhere their cell phone towers reside, which is basically everywhere. Different carriers, you have AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, kind of some of those heavy hitters. As long as their speeds are decent with each one of those carriers, you're good to go. There are some anomalies here, though. You have some carriers that can use any cell phone towers, any cell phone tower that it can reach, and the speeds are just as fast. So look out for things, believe it or not, things like Boost Mobile of all the carriers. They can use multiple different towers, and they're cheap. Now, the cons to these, sometimes in your peak hours, they are going to be slower. AT&T is one of the big ones that does this, so is Verizon. And some of these plans are limited data. So you're not going to be able to download, an entire movie and watch it necessarily, or they're going to throttle how fast you can download those speeds. Okay. Or they're going to charge you if you go over a terabyte of downloads. That's the unfortunate world we live in nowadays. And it's just something I want you all to be aware of. So I grouped in satellite internet and point-to-point. These, most of the point-to-point internet you'll hear of, like Rise Broadband, things like that. They're basically local companies that put a tower, like a small little device on your house or your work, and they allow you to do point-to-point internet. Basically, they have a fiber connection and they give you like 50 meg. You tend to end up with, a bit of a lag because you are working on point-to-point. You don't have the direct connection yourself. It's available in almost all locations. You see this out in the rural locations quite a bit. Satellite internet, I will say, I'm going to omit Starlink because I am going to talk about that here in a few minutes. Satellite internet, as long as you have a clear line to the sky, you can get it in almost every location. You tend to pay a pretty penny for your upload and download speeds. So as long as you're okay with that, but they get you with latency. Okay, your latency, like I said, it's two people talking over a canyon, and you're going to have high latency because those satellites are in space. Okay, so things like phone systems or Skype, any of those, you may actually run into quite a few problems if you're trying to do satellite or point-to-point with those, with the setup. Okay, we'll get to Starlink. That's an anomaly. I'd love to tell you all about it. All right, so cable internet. This is what the majority of you have. Majority of our clients, majority of people just out there in the world. There are different carriers. Not all carriers will go to the same location. Sometimes they will, and I want you all to be very aware that you might be able to switch your cable internet carrier and save yourself some money. These tend to be very reliable. You will have faster sustained speeds. You will see quite a bit where it's 200 megs down and 25 up, or 300 down, all the way up to a gig. You are going to pay more money for your higher speeds, and that includes download and upload speeds. It's just the way the business works. And most of these companies will raise your rates after a year or two once your contract lapses. So make sure that you're renegotiating those contracts with the Comcast, AT&T, whoever your provider is. They are asynchronous bandwidth. So that basically means your download speeds don't actually match your upload speeds. And on the next one, I'll give you an example of ones that are the same. Fiber internet, becoming a bigger thing in most non-rural locations. There are some providers that are in rural locations, so make sure to look for these. They might not be as easy to find as your cable internet providers, but I know in DeKalb, they're running fiber optic and they're running fiber to home, and you will get synchronous bandwidth. Synchronous means if you pay for 100 meg down, you're going to get 100 meg up, which in the cable internet realm doesn't exist. 100 meg up is just, you won't get it. Very unlikely that you would get it, or you're going to be paying too much for it. Fiber internet has extremely low latency. It's very reliable. I say that it's very reliable because it hardly ever goes down like cable internet, but when it does go down, if somebody's on the side of the road and they cut in a fiber optic line, it does take longer to get that back up and running sometimes. Just things to be aware of. The biggest con for fiber internet on the business side is the cost. Cost of fiber internet tends to be almost double what cable internet is, okay? There are some different scenarios like the fiber optic ring that I was referring to in DeKalb. It's cheaper for home internet than it is for using Comcast or Charter or any of the big players. So keep an eye out. If there's a company that's putting fiber in your neighborhood and they're looking for people that are interested, it might be something worth looking into, especially if you work from home. In your business, you're probably going to get a notification from whatever provider is coming into the area. And it might be a good time to actually say, okay, I'll jump on and do this. Maybe they'll give you an introductory price. I can't say enough about fiber internet. I highly recommend it if you can get it. Okay, let's say you're a company and you rely solely on the internet for if you're healthcare and you need it for your EMR or EHR. There's no reason why you only have to have one internet provider. What do you mean? You could have Comcast as your primary internet and then AT&T or Verizon as your backup, and you can mix and match the different plans. You can have cable internet as your primary and cellular backup, fiber with cable backup. So the potential of having true downtime is limited. Be careful of the Comcast of the world where they try to bundle in two services into one. We'll find that lots of times that option isn't strong enough to support, more than one or two people. It's like having dial-up as your backup. Might not work out super great. If you have two connections, make sure that your infrastructure can handle two connections. Like two connections, like your firewall. Your firewall is usually your primary piece of technology that comes off the internet first thing. If you don't, you probably need to talk to your IT provider, but make sure that it can fail over to the second one. The firewalls that we tend to put into place always can do this failover, and we make sure that it's configured that way. Some of your backup solutions can be pay as you go. Make sure to shop around, check with your current carrier if you're going to cellular. If you are a home residential user and you happen to have the Ring alarm and you're paying, the Ring Pro alarm actually gives you a certain amount of data for free, and it does a cellular backup. So it's kind of an amazing piece of technology that they offer this as long as you have an active subscription with them. So things like that, things that are being included, just keep an eye on. All right, let's go to the next one. Business apps. Okay. A lot of your business apps, if they're cloud hosted, they're going to rely on fast download and upload speeds. Hosted phone systems, they need both fast speeds and require low latency. If you have high latency, probably not wise to actually do a hosted phone system. If you're doing web hosted, like your cloud backups, they actually only rely on your fast upload speeds. Often it's not a fast download speed. If you have a local or cloud hosted camera system, your download and upload speeds matter. And actually Office 365, it requires a decent upload and download. It doesn't care as much about latency. Again, upload and download exactly what it is. If I'm downloading, I'm pulling it from the internet. If I'm uploading it, I'm pushing it out, right? And latency is the lag between the two communication points, okay? So we get a lot of questions from residential and business people that are like, our internet's slow. Why is it so slow? But we also have a ton of these, what we call IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, right? If you have an Alexa on your network, a Google Home, any Apple products, smart thermostats, smoke detectors, cameras, doorbells, smart locks, vacuums, smart vacuums, washer and dryers, or refrigerators, which the refrigerator is pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Only if my wife would let me buy it, it'd be awesome. These devices all use bandwidth. So when people tell us often, it's slow, and I don't know why, these devices use a ton of data and they're just using it in the background, especially your smart cameras. They're constantly reading and writing. You potentially, if you have more than 2 cameras, you're going to need more than 50 meg down. Otherwise, you're really not going to like it, because usually if you have 50 meg down, you're going to probably have around 15 meg up, and those cameras are going to eat up that storage, the bandwidth that you need in order to actually have your cameras, your cloud hosted cameras out there. So your phone systems, a lot of these are becoming more and more prevalent in the area. You need to invest in like your managed smart switches and firewall. You need a cable internet connection with at least 50 megs down and 15 megs up. Battery backup on key components is crucial. Upgrade your phones on a schedule as well. We find that a lot of these phone providers will be out there, and you won't be updating your phones regularly at all, and they'll be using too much data because they haven't received the most recent patches. This is just a really important key thing that I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because we get a lot of questions about phone systems. We offer a good phone system, so this is one of the things that we always come in and we look at and we suggest to people. Okay, see if your carrier offers a soft phone. This would help you in the occurrence that your primary link, let's say you have Comcast internet in the office, and let's say Comcast is down. If they have a soft phone, what is that? That's an app-based phone that actually can reside on your cell phone or on your laptop. That could be at home, could be somewhere else. So you're not reliant on the actual internet in the office anymore. It could be on your cell phone, which in most scenarios is always up, always online. Don't rely on the equipment in a single location. Again, if you have an on-premise phone system and something happens with one of those lines, you're down. You can't send and receive phone calls at all. Invest your time and money into a system that will grow with you, not one that you're constantly having to feed more money into. And don't be afraid to get bids from other sources. There are more and more of these phone systems are becoming bigger and better. So always shop around. That's always our suggestion to people. Okay. Now, I mentioned Starlink earlier. Starlink, if you don't know what Starlink is, Elon Musk, this is one of his projects, and it's actually it's a satellite internet, but it is extremely fast, well priced, and it has relatively low latency. It's still being developed. So if you're an early adopter, it's only in certain states as it sits right now. It's technically not in Illinois for another year. And they have 3 different versions. They've got a business class, a residential class, and an RV class, which I was actually pretty excited about. So they basically ranges from 50 meg all the way up to 500 meg, which is pretty on par with your current internet provider like Comcast or Charter. And they're offering unlimited data, which is it blew my mind when I saw that. The prices, generally you have to, and I'm not going to quote prices on this, so you'll have to just go look at Starlink on the web. But they you generally have to purchase the hardware, and then you have a monthly fee, which the monthly fee is right in line with your standard ISPs, internet service providers. I'm pretty excited about this one just because the individuals that are maybe in a rural area, or perhaps their business only has a single provider, single ISP that's available to them, and it's not very good, maybe unreliable. This could be something that could be great. And the hardware, it's very futuristic, as you would imagine from an Elon Musk project. 5G. Can't talk about cellular internet without talking about 5G. 5G, most of your big carriers are, expanding their coverage of 5G, which theoretical cap is 10 gigs, 10 gigs down, which most of our home or business lines are not 10 gig capable. So the potential here is pretty great. A lot of these have home and business plans. They often have data caps. These actually make great backup internet solutions, not necessarily even primary. Something to kind of keep your eye on, shop around, look for, see what's the best signal in your area, and see if maybe your router or your firewall can actually just take a chip that then makes the backup internet even better. So, some internet suggestions. Make sure that your infrastructure can support the speed you pay for. Lots of times we walk into a company and they're like, oh, here's our internet. We have, 500 gig internet, but our firewall can only handle 200 meg, sorry, 500 meg internet and 200 meg firewall. Make sure that you are paying for the appropriate speeds for the hardware that you have. At this point, you're probably overpaying if your firewall can't support it. So you either upgrade your firewall or you downgrade your internet, or you can just leave it. It's fine. But just know that you're paying additional for things that you can't actually use. The more devices and the more you rely on the internet, the faster the speeds that you're going to want to have in the office, okay, or at home. And don't be interesting. Sorry. Work with your trusted IT provider and stay in the loop with new and exciting technology. Don't be afraid to actually invest in a backup internet provider. So at that point, I am all done. We're going to get you back a couple of minutes in your day. Does anybody have any questions?
I didn't see any questions come in. So we will just thank you all for attending today's Tech Talk. Be on the lookout for the recording of today's webinar, as well as the invitation to the July Tech Talk on the second Wednesday of July, the 13th. Have a good rest of your day.